think we're good. Before this breaks on me, welcome to my new series, Cantrip Causality. Taking a look at free, easy, or non-consequential magic that would be a huge benefit in the real world. Hello, and welcome to the Fantasy Survival Guide. This is definitely my favorite time of the year to adventure. Lovely weather, I can wear in full armor. It's beautiful out. The winter is kind of applicable to today's conversation. Today we're talking about firebolts, or more specifically, fire cantrips. Things like produce flame, firebolt, ignis from The Witcher, and pretty much anything that produces flame without costing resources. Breaking it down, essentially what it is any sort of effect that causes flame easily or with no resources. It's kind of obvious why this is such a big deal. Especially in the wintertime, adventuring is hard. You're out in the wild, sometimes you don't have the resources you need. You have to boil water, you have to stay warm, you have to cook food, you have to hunt, you have to survive. And especially in the winter, all of that is compounded into a very difficult task. There's a reason why a lot of adventurers don't travel during the winter. Having a quick source of fire on your hands would make a lot of this a lot easier. There's quite a few examples of what I'm talking about. Firebolt or produce flame from D&D, brisingr from Aragon, or the Witcher sign Ignis. The whole inspiration of this idea is firebolt, which is a D&D cantrip. Essentially it does like 1d6 damage, 120 feet range, and shoots a ball of fire. This is extremely overpowered in real life. The actual ability of just casting fire whenever you want is a huge deal. It really depends on the magic system, but as a general rule, you can use it for so many things. Whether that's starting a campfire, cooking food, boiling water, unfreezing water, there are a lot of possibilities. The first magic system to talk about will probably be Ignis from the Witcher series. As far as I understand, it is a burst of flame from the Witcher, and in the Witcher 3 game, it is like a wall of fire towards his enemies. Using Ignis as a survival tool would be incredibly useful. They could also use it to light some torch or maybe a candle in some sort of tavern or whatever. It would be incredibly useful just as a mundane use. Going to the other side, Aragon's brisingr or produce flame from D&D, pretty much the same story. It all pretty much functions the same at that level. Now besides just surviving, when you actually get to your destination, how good would it be in combat? Pretty much all these magic systems would be very effective in a fight. A few examples of what you could do is whenever you're fighting an opponent, just using the fire as a blast. Even if it doesn't do damage, using it against an unmotivated opponent, such as a robber, a street urchin, or maybe even a pack of wolves. Using it as a scare tactic to scare them away, push them, and just terrify them would be hugely effective. If they're more determined to fight you, you can actually use it to blind them as well, allowing you to get a strike while you do it. Using perhaps a one-hand weapon, you could blind them with one while striking with the other, and sort of a 2-for-1 deal. To be fair, this does have some historic validity. Especially during some later duels, people would use lanterns as their offhand weapon. Specifically, they'd be using spotlight lanterns, with the light facing away from the user. With the light facing the user's opponent, especially on a dark night, they would be able to see, being able to spotlight the entire alleyway, while the opponent would be blinded with the bright light being shined in their face. Being able to see is kind of important in a sword fight, and if you take that away, you are at a huge disadvantage. There's been a few discussions I've seen about The Witcher of why witches didn't really use Ignis in the fights in the books, specifically because they would themselves be blinded, or they would create so many shadows. This does make sense if you find multiple opponents like a Witcher would. Being able to see what's behind you, and even a momentary flash of just those little stars in your eyes could be detrimental. Depending on how well you can fine-tune it, you can hide the fire behind your hand so the light only goes away. Perhaps you could hold some sort of shield or some sort of barrier that blocks the light from coming to you. Perhaps something on your wrist or a small little buckler or something like that. With brisingr, I believe it's less of an issue because it's not really tied to the user's body. It can actually be wherever they want. As long as it's not too far away, it doesn't take that much more energy. And so if they say are holding a buckler or some sort of shield, they could just put the fire on the other end of the shield and just blind their opponents. This would make brisingr much more useful than Ignis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 47, 48. 48. I am 120 feet away based on my own pacing. Out of the 3 magic systems I've spoken of this video, I have mentioned firebolt the least, and there's a reason for that. In my opinion, firebolt is the most overpowered out of all 3 of these systems. Firebolt has a range of 120 feet. Firebolt can do pretty much everything the others can do, just with a bit more excessiveness. Now, it does not have the range of a bow, whether it's a war bow, hunting bow, or whatever. It would be really useful using firebolt to hunt, not having to carry a weapon, being able to move silently through the woods, and whenever you see your target, depending on how careful you are with the verbal and somatic components, you could sneak up on a target and hit them from a distance. Now, in my opinion, firebolt really shines in wartime. Whether you're a small party attacking an orc or a goblin camp, or you're in a massive army attacking a huge castle in a huge siege, both of them have their applications. In both circumstances, there are probably plenty of lumber or thatch houses, whether in the roofs or the walls of the house. This again does have some historical precedence. Check out Tar Cutler's video here about fire arrows. In this case, as long as you have a bunch of casters or wizards, you could just have free fire arrows launching into the city. In a more dark and dystopian way, this would be a great scare tactic for a dictator or some sort of evil king. Just sending one wizard into a dissenting village or camp that might be holding traitors or heretics, they could burn the entire thing down, or at least give the threat of it. Just one wizard, and we're not even getting to firebolt or the higher level spells. Just firebolt, you could take over a large area as long as you have enough men to proficiently know and use it. Alright, thank you all so much for watching this essay. If you enjoyed it, I've got some other essays right here. And if you like this sort of style of video, I plan to make a whole lot more. And if you have any suggestions, please let me know. Thank you all for watching, and God bless.